when it's going to happen. Hey, it happened. We're live. Welcome to Heaven's Help Desk. My name is Curtis. This is my mom.
Hello.
And we are here today going to answer the toughest questions that members could possibly ask. Yeah, the questions that come up are from Swedenborg Foundation community members submitted over the last little while. Thank you for your submission. If you want to get your questions in, become a member, and when you see that email go out, submit, and you'll be famous. You'll be famous for 15 minutes on this program. Okay, there's always so many good questions that I just want to get right into it. You know, we got no time. This is question 1 from Anonymous Aussie. If I just think through all the people in Australia, asks, does Swedenborg ever mention while living in the physical world being able to influence other people positively because you are being influenced by God / operating in a high loving vibration? So when your energies interact, they benefit and or are influenced positively. Well, that would be nice. That'd be a nice perk. If you regenerate a bit, then you can bring up the people around you. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say I don't recall Swedenborg specifically talking about this between people on Earth, but he talks extensively about how on the level of the spirit, the spiritual world, people absolutely affect each other. You know, their auras are an extension of their thoughts and feelings and states of mind, and people's auras absolutely strongly affect each other in the afterlife. And he also says we right now have our spirits in the spiritual world, you know, all of us do. And so it makes sense to me that would apply to a certain extent on Earth too, you know, like our state of mind. And you can tell that our states of mind affect each other, even though it's not as direct as in spirit, because we do have these physical bodies kind of in the way. But you know how someone else's mood can affect you. Somebody can walk into a room and either light up the room or, you know, bring a cloud into it.
Right.
So I think it just has to be true that we do have an effect as we are just working to be more connected with God and bring that, you know, love of God into the world in what we do and say. It's just got to be that we're affecting through our vibes too. Don't you think? What do you think, Curtis?
Yeah, I mean, he does seem like there's a couple puzzle pieces left out by Swedenborg, but if we can infer that, there's physical ways we can change each other's moods, just like the facial expressions we make, and those can affect the mood. In a Swedenborgian worldview, the spiritual means of affecting each other's moods don't depend on physical proximity. But if I'm like talking to someone who's there with me, I'm thinking about them, and spiritually, thought brings presence. So does that mean your spirit is close to the spirit of the person that you're talking to? Then if so, your communities would interact. So I do know that you definitely have there's an impact that people have on each other, which can be very pronounced. And it can happen, you know, digitally as well. I think you'd see someone or read something from someone who has achieved a certain mastery of something, you know, whether it's like handling a certain kind of problem that you have or something, and it just being around them and just hearing how they talk and how they are changes you. So I would think it's the same thing with regeneration, because then you're this living example of like how you're a constant source of data on how does a regenerated person do this thing? How do they do that thing? And when someone's around you, that's pouring in, and maybe there's a spiritual connection. Either way, you can affect people positively.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you're making me think too about how now a lot of us are able to connect with others online that we didn't used to be able to, you know, in different locations, and how you can just feel. I mean, I can genuinely feel like I'm in the same room with a person that I'm talking to online who's in a different country, you know, just because we're connecting in our feelings and what we're saying and everything. It also popped into my head as you were talking that not having it quite as pronounced in this world is probably a good protection, because Here, physically, we can just be where we are, and we might be around people that we really don't vibe with or anything, and it would be probably unhandleable if we were super directly affecting each other all the time. Like in the spiritual world, people actually like vanish from each other's presence or appear in each other's presence according to state of heart and mind. So it's probably a little bit of a protection here that it's not as intense. But just going back to what we were saying before, I do think absolutely we have an effect on each other, and the more we can embody, regeneration is just becoming more and more able to embody heaven in our lives. And so the more we're doing that, no doubt that, our effect just every day can be, more and more positive in the world and on other people.
Yeah, I think because you're being influenced by God operating in a higher loving vibration. So when your energies interact, they benefit and are influenced positively. I would think so. I mean, Swedenborg talks about an outgoing wave physically. He says that there's a correspondence when I just think yes. And by all accounts, as Swedenborg got more and more enlightened, he became more pleasant to be around. There's the stories of the people around him, the kids that would interact, even that the weather would be good when he was traveling. It's all anecdotal, but this is the kind of stuff that, sky's the limit probably. So yeah, I would think, and I like the spirit behind it of like, how can this bring additional benefit to people? So that's great. Thanks, Anonymous Aussie.
Let's do it. Let's
Let's
regenerate.
just do it. I mean, there's no downside. Thanks, Chinonye, for the memberships. Oh, hey, that reminds me. If you all want to support the not-for-profit Swedenborg Foundation while you're enjoying this content, check out this. There's a link that's swedenborg.com/livegive. That's a way that you can support us and make it possible for us to spread the message around. This is question number 2 from Debbie, who asks, most of the time, we can't really sense or feel the love of God and the angels during our time here on earth. What good purpose might there be in it being this way? I feel like life would be a lot more pleasant if we were aware of that love. Yeah, no kidding. So there has to be, given that there's so many people who sure would love to feel that stuff, feel like somebody's here, they're with me, there's a lot of care for me. That's the reality, according to not just Swedenborg, but like everybody who has any kind of near-death experience or something, that seems to be the reality. But yet you can just definitely feel crickets when you look for it here. So what's the good reason,
Well, it's important to me to remember that is how the world and humanity were created. Human beings were totally aware of God's flow into them, God's presence, the presence of heaven, like that was our original state as human beings. And it just got gradually blocked and the thing was, when people started focusing more attention on external life, physical life, their external minds, their own perspective, more and more, we collectively just more and more closed off those deeper levels of our minds, which is where we would be aware of that, which is where we are aware of God's presence. But if those levels are blocked off, are clouded, it's just not apparent. Our default consciousness is on the earthly level, the outer level, the level of appearances, as Swedenborg would say. So it's not, I mean, everything is permitted, so something good will come out of it and everything. But the goal, the whole goal of regeneration and collective regeneration and everything is to move back toward that awareness. And it is always there, but we have to, because of this default, we have to work harder to hone in on it. It's like, I feel like in one of our shows, we were talking about this psychology thing that is recognized, that you notice what, how do I put it? Like, you notice what you're open to noticing. Like even around you in physical life, there are things you just like totally won't notice because you're not either you're not interested, or you're not thinking about it, or you're preoccupied with something else, or you're expecting something else. There's all these ways that just a human being walking around will not even notice that certain things in their surroundings, and will notice other things. And so I think we have to retrain ourselves to notice the presence of God. And I know that I need to constantly, like, notice, like when I have a moment of a lovely feeling, or a feeling of compassion, or a insight or something, I got to make myself take note of that. Like, thank you, God, like acknowledge it, notice it, to sort of build the muscle of noticing God's presence and God's action in my life. And the more I do that, the more I am recognizing that happening all the time. It's kind of like Swedenborg says, like, if you're looking out at nature and you don't have a belief in God, you'll say, well, where's God? But if you already believe in God, you're saying, like, wow, I see God everywhere, because in the miracle of this, and the way nature works and everything. So it's kind of like, if you can, and sometimes it's like, I feel like you can fake it till you make it. Like a wonderful coincidence happens, and you think, oh, that was God. Even if maybe, I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but we can choose to notice anything good that happens as that's God. That's God. And I feel like that can build your awareness of God's presence all the time. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I know. It seems like I noticed the same thing, that there's a voluntary nature to it, that
Mm-hmm.
you can start to see God in things,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to lean into it. Like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll hit you like, wow, but
Yeah.
other times, and I was just actually doing this when I was coming in my back door the other day, and and having some concepts about what God is like can help you see God, because I was just seeing like a door and a wall and a light, and I was like, well, is this world really run by God? But then if you understand that God is order and
Mm-hmm.
usefulness, and like there you
Mm-hmm.
have just a bunch of order, bunch of usefulness, but those are the structures in which love can live.
Yeah.
Then it starts to feel more like, oh yeah, God is here. And I think it's an interesting point you made about how, yeah, there was supposed to be a decent amount of direct experience of God in the human condition. Um, and that's not how it is these days.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I know that at least like divine providence, which is God operating in your life, you're not supposed to know that it's happening. You can't, because it would be impossible for you to function if you understood that there's the divine hand in everything, because just by nature you would kind of lose your spirit to go after life. There would be things you didn't want it to do, and then you start to get mad at God, like, you did this, rather than Swedenborg gives this fascinating sort of list of why that needs to be like the way it is. I wonder if too there's something of that, or like we need to be like Jesus felt alone a lot of the time, even, or he had these states of
Mm-hmm.
being emptied out. He didn't always feel God, even though he was God. He couldn't always feel that reality there. One other thought that I had was like, God is parenting us. So we talk about God is, God is our father. It's like with your kids, sometimes you're like, okay, you've got to, no, I'm going to let go of the bike and you've got to go. It's a little different than just always here to give us everything we need. There's like
Yeah.
you have to develop, we have to make something out of you. You have to face some things. I know that's not like the most comfort, but it just struck me the other day that you think about parenting,
Mhm.
some of it is like, I know you go and do this because I want to see you stretch and grow.
Mm.
But I do agree that this is not the state in which the human race would be existing if it was just all up to God. Like the suffering levels are entirely intolerable, to where they should be. But given that it is what it is, it seems like, yeah, the love is sitting right there, and you feel it as soon as you cross over. But we can't always have it here. I was interviewing a guy
Right.
on this channel, and I said, miss the most about heaven, and he said that you can feel that God loves you there. You can
Mhm.
feel that. Whereas here, sometimes you feel a bit of that, but okay. My last thing of this sort of scattered bouquet of thoughts is this is why Swedenborg says it's so important, as you mentioned, to attribute good things to God. You
Yeah.
got to understand, when you feel somebody love you, and they are helping you, you can either, oh well, that person does, but where are you, God? Or you can say, well, that's God, that was some of God's love I was just feeling. And
Yes.
even like in all goodness, so goodness, and this weird amorphous word, but I think it means what you sort of think it means. Like good, if you have something you want to eat, it tastes good, like
Yes.
that goodness is coming from God. The feel of, like, if you're going to take a bath and it's like the water is warm,
Hmm.
the something looks beautiful, all of
Yes.
that comes from God. So all the goodness, like everything positive that you feel in the day, that is God reaching out. And so that's what's important, to start to think like that. Oh,
Yes.
everything good is from God. Then you do start to see where God is around you.
Yes. Right. In every gesture of kindness and every little good, beautiful feeling and every insight that helps in every beautiful thing you see. Yeah. It's everywhere.
Question 3, Anonymous Aussie is back. He got a double. Who
Yay.
asks, how would it affect someone, he or she? I said he, I just assume, I don't know why. How would it affect, or most Australians are men, is that right? How would it affect someone's spiritual body if that person has a substance abuse problem in the physical world? Is your spiritual body then tormented or attacked by evil spirits because you are partaking in continuous self-gratifying behaviors? Just wanted to pass on how much I love the show. Thank you to all involved. My aim is to watch every single of the Off the Left Eye videos. Oh man, that's a
Woo.
lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Okay, great question too. I I think that there's a reason why we've started to classify something like a substance abuse problem as an addiction. Like there's something different happening there than just, oh, you're just acting out of control. Like people realize there's some kind of um, markedly different condition in the brain that can happen.
Physical. Yeah.
And like there's some you can put in a different category. Like there's some stuff that I can do that's not that. That's not. I could go and what was he talking about? Substance abuse. I could go abuse a substance without an addiction and just cause problems because that night I got too drunk or something. That's like a little different than if you're locked into this thing. So I would think, because the reason I want to say is because you are partaking in continuous self-gratifying behaviors. I think at some point you're not self-gratifying anymore. You're trapped
Mhm.
and you can't get out of the thing. So I would think that's a different spiritual, that affects you different spiritually than your classic kind of love of the world, self-gratifying behavior. So that's my first thought on it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. First and foremost, just to know that God knows everything about everyone and knows what it's clear what's just kind of part of the body and the heredity, both the heredity of the physical heredity and also the like outer mind heredity that can be a part of addiction. People, it runs through families, right? Substance abuse, addictions. So anything that is just on the physical level and that we didn't freely choose is just going to fall away. So that's just
Yeah.
not going to be part of the thing. And everybody in the afterlife, like we all have to go through some kind of detoxing of the things that are more were freely chosen or you know mixed up or have lower ego stuff mixed in. We're all going to have to go through some kind of detoxing, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't see as people who have had struggled with substance abuse in this world any different than anyone who doesn't have that in the afterlife. It's just like everybody's just gotta like go through learning and some vastations or that's a word Swedenborg uses to just kind of help us sort out stuff that's just not useful, not beneficial, and see it clearly and let it go. So I don't think addiction is like makes things worse for people in the afterlife. I think it's deeper than that. Meaning, what are your deeper wants and desires and goals and things
Yeah.
like that?
Intent. So intent. I think the intent changes.
Yeah.
If you get as if you get to a certain level into, say, an alcoholic, the intent changes from like this is fun to I can't stop. I have to do this just to not whatever collapse or something. So
Yes.
intent changes, and so I would think that changes the spiritual impact of something like that. Swedenborg does talk about hell is involved in everything negative. So it
Sure.
does try to lock us into things.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if Swedenborg addresses this particularly, but I wouldn't be surprised if hell is there, like reinforcing addiction and trying to keep it going and keep pushing the person
For
toward
sure.
it. Sure, it's just like germs and microbes are involved in infections of all kinds. Like hell
Yeah.
is going to be there, but I think it's different. I think it's different than the regenerative morality stuff that we deal with in our lives, because Swedenborg says you can't, only the things that you do in a state of freedom and rationality stay
Yeah.
with you. And there's at least some compromising of your freedom and rationality when you're heavily addicted to something.
That's what was just popping into my mind is the ability to have your rational mind available. Because nothing sticks with us that into the afterlife that we didn't have enough rationality to make a full choice and freedom, like you said. So when, like you're saying, you can make blunders and sort of fall into something because you chose to try something and you shouldn't have. But when it's beyond rationality, like I know so many stories of people who they are seeing that this is messing up their life, and yet they can't access, when the urge or the craving hits them, they're unable to access that rationality strong enough. So the thing about the afterlife that's so wonderful, and is that you're going to get full access to your rationality. You won't have the physical craving spirits. There are spirits involved in addiction. We did a show about that. Are spirits involved in addiction? But they are only able to grab us at our bodily level. The bodily cravings. Spirits is one thing Swedenborg talks about. So we just do the best we can in this life, and anything people can do to mitigate the grip of addiction. It's so wonderful that the Lord has provided. Speaking of the Lord being present in people's efforts, AA, and people supporting each other and helping each other just to hang in there through this physical life. But so much of the blockage of the ability to make a free choice about this will fall away. So I don't think, going back to the anonymous Aussie's question, like, is that making your spiritual body so that the evil spirits can just keep attacking you? No, I don't think so. In the same way, then you can just really get down to what's the real thing you want and don't want, and sort it out in a much more free state.
Yeah, you would only get attacked if some kind of good can come out of it, if it will dissuade you from a behavior or something. So I would think in that situation, it's not dissuading you from it. So, yeah, great. Well, good luck, Anonymous Aussie, on your quest to watch every single Off the Left Eye video.
Yes.
Okay, let's do the next one. This is from Anonymous, not Aussie, just Anonymous, who asks, I love you guys. You are hilarious. That's a good start. I am a Juilliard graduate and chief harpist at the UN. Oh, we're talking to a celebrity.
Yeah.
Would you consider restraint when demeaning harpists and harp playing in general, especially regarding the role of harp playing in heaven? Oh no, the chickens have come home to roost. We thought
Yeah.
we could pick on the harp, and nobody. No, if anyone's not familiar, what's being referred to here is a couple of times when we've said, like, forget harps, angels do a lot of cool things in heaven, because there's a classic image of a little cherub sitting on a cloud, and all you do all day is play the harp. We should not have given any impression that harp is not a great thing. I think if I shot up into heaven and there was a bunch of different stations where people were playing different instruments, I would go to the harp station. I love how they sound. It is an amazing skill. We actually just did an episode. The episode just aired on the spiritual power of music, and I would think that, of stringed instruments, even harp is amazingly soothing. And I'll like listen to harp music when I need to calm down and that kind of thing. So I take it all back. I take it all back.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'll bet that sort of stereotype, right, as Curtis says, was a joke to sort of counteract the idea of playing harps forever. Everybody is playing harps forever, every day, all the time. But no doubt the reason that stereotype came in, besides, some Bible passages, is harp music is so heavenly. It's just so beautiful.
Right.
It can
Why would they
transport you.
why would they picture angels as playing harps? They're trying to think, what's the best thing we can think of?
Yes, absolutely. And I have a quote here from Swedenborg's book, Apocalypse Revealed, that is talking about the beautiful symbolism of harps and harp music. This is 276 in Apocalypse Revealed, that harps symbolize confessions of the Lord springing from spiritual truths. So confessions of the Lord, so testimonies of the Lord springing from spiritual truth. So when just truth in your mind just says, like expresses that the Lord is God, the Lord is wonderful, everything wonderful about the Lord. So there's all these Bible quotes. Confess Jehovah with the harp, make music to him with a harp of 10 strings, from Psalms 33. And on the harp I will confess you, O God, my God, Psalm 43. I will confess you with the instrument of a harp. I will sing to you with the lyre, O Holy One of Israel. So it's a frequent symbol in the Bible of just symbolizing just the truth that God is Lord. That the Lord is God and is wonderful. So since it's such a beautiful truth, it's beautiful music. And no doubt, Swedenborg says there are people playing instruments in heaven. There would be harps in heaven, and we'll need harpists. So please continue.
Especially you. Especially you and Chief Harvest. Great. Thank you so much. Your gentle rebuke is gratefully accepted.
Yes.
Next question 5 from Ebo, who asks, how should new church teachings on correspondences and usefulness guide a discerning response to mass market streaming platforms like Gaia that blend wellness, spirituality, and fringe science, enabling viewers to remain open-minded yet skeptical, harvest genuine regeneration, and what would Swedenborg likely warn against or affirm about such mediated spiritual marketplaces?
Yeah. Well, I think that it's really good for people to explore sources of information, sources of spiritual information, because we all learn differently, and different approaches reach different people differently. And as far as warnings or things to just keep in mind, I think the important thing is to have some North Star stuff, like love of God and love of the neighbor. Like, is this promoting love of God and love of the neighbor? 10 Commandments, is this not encouraging things that are talked about in the 10 Commandments? Just treating people badly, or things, or selfishness, sort of, rather than love of self and the neighbor. So when I have enjoyed throughout my life just looking into different spiritual paths and information. And for me myself, I measure it against, because I feel like what is contained in Swedenborg's books, the version of Christianity that he presents, really just rings so true to me. I'm always measuring other things I explore against that, and like it if it um, aligns with and enhances something like that, I enjoy that. And, I can sometimes get some interesting new nuances um, from other points of view, because, you get a fresh angle on things. And then can also just like, well, I don't quite agree with that from this source, but I do agree with that, so you can be discerning. And also in one of our shows, which was called How to Test a Spiritual Idea, um, we presented using the metrics of love and rationality as you're measuring spiritual ideas. Like, is this seem to be coming from love, and is it also rational? Does it make sense? It as far as a grand design that God would make. So if you have sort of your North Star, your main principles as you go in, then you can explore and you can choose what, yeah, okay, that doesn't resonate. This does. That's cool. That's a cool angle. So that's how I hold it.
That's great. I love those thoughts. I wonder what distribution platforms Swedenborg would use today if he
Yeah.
were publishing. As I understand it, where he went, Preternaster Row in London, that was the epicenter of things. That was the place to get published. The printing press was, it was still relatively new. It was that he was on the cutting edge of this is how you get material out. So I wonder, you think about platforms like Gaia. I don't know. Would he be on something like that? Where would he try to reach the audience that he wanted to reach? YouTube is, I guess, a gigantic unmediated spirituality platform. So even if you're coming here right now in this video to your right of your screen, it's showing you, or wherever you're watching this on, it's showing you, don't you want to watch this? Don't you want to? So you're going to have to build up your discernment. And I feel like Swedenborg is this interesting mix of super ecumenical and super exclusive. So super ecumenical in that he'll talk about how just like so many faith traditions and sources of things can be a source of good ideas and truths that can reinforce your spiritual beliefs and lead you to heaven. And then exclusivity in that he has very clear ideas on what's good and what's not good. That what's good is to love.
Mm-hmm.
What's good is to love the human race, whereas love for yourself alone is actually extremely toxic. And I know that some things under the spirituality banner, that because it's such a broad word, it'll be stuff that's really just all kind of bejeweled selfishness. It's just like, how do I get what I want? And that's what spirituality is. So I see Gwen saying some of this stuff on, I haven't really seen Gaia that much, but if also, the truth matters, that Swedenborg was trying hard, the science in his day was the state that it was, but he was trying hard to show with things that were proven to be true. Look, this shows that this order exists there. So, so I would say that I feel like Ebo puts it pretty well in the question, enabling viewers to remain open-minded yet skeptical, harvest genuine regeneration, because you never know where you're going to go. Where you're going to find great things. Recently I've been finding great corroborating and improving truths in psychology. Like there's so much good stuff out there, and you can't blind yourself to it because it can totally round out your understanding of things. But yeah, you can also get swept up. So it's always going to be an alchemical process. You're going to have to just like kind of figure it out on your own, and that's the design. That's the freedom we were talking about from the earlier question. But you try to build up if you find something that you really feel like it's a good source of truth, like I'll do with Swedenborg, I'll use that, as you said, as my compass, and then go explore. And sometimes you got to trust your gut, and sometimes you got to see how something works, and sometimes you got to see how something fits.
Yeah, you just brought up, that's great. And I think one of the things we talked about in that show, how to test a spiritual idea, is a part of the love factor is pay attention to the effects, in your life, because sometimes I've talked to people online that the spiritual ideas they had latched onto were causing them fear, like, or, like, so pay attention to that. Like, does that make sense? If that would make you afraid, love, it should, to me, it should always lead back to comfort and hope, and, like there's something to do. So that's another thing to pay attention to. And I think what you were just alluding to, Curtis, is it is good to explore because you're building your discernment. You could even sort of, maybe you did get caught up in something for a while, and then you later realize, wait, this is not pointing me in a good direction. But you learn from that, like it helps you get clearer. And I did subscribe to Gaia for a while, a few years back, and I found, a mixture. Like some things like, oh, I really like that angle, and other things like, whoop, that's not for me. It wasn't feeling useful to me. But definitely when I have explored in other spiritual philosophies and then come back to Swedenborg, I feel like I have fresh eyes on Swedenborg, and it even helps me bring more to it, because you can get a little bit locked into just sort of one way of seeing something, and then when you come back, you have some fresh eyes to see even more wonderful things. And that the last thought is, when you mentioned Swedenborg, where did he publish or anything? He did need to go to countries to publish that were more open-minded, and he wasn't allowed to publish in Sweden. So he had to go to places like Amsterdam and London, where there was allowed more freedom of thought, where people were allowed to explore a little bit. So that's interesting. That can bring you a little bit, a little bit wider scope to kind of find truth. But yep, just discernment, and it's all building that up.
Somebody mentioned in the chat a second ago, the age of misinformation that we're in right now.
Yes.
I think it's interesting, and just a truth either way, that there's so much misinformation, and there's so much true information. I heard somebody talking about human biology recently, in the context of medicine. And they were saying, like, we probably, and you think of right now, like we understand things pretty well. I mean, you got all these super microscopes and you can splice genes, and it's just like, and this person was saying, we probably understand about 10% of what goes on biologically.
Yeah.
Just because, so what that means is there is so much true information about your body. There's so much true information about it. And it's so that even if you knew everything everyone knows about it, you mostly don't know what's going on at any given time. And so it is, I think, this is why it's important not to get too rigid about spiritual things, because Swedenborg will often say, we back in his day, they knew even less about how the body functioned. And he would say, like, they didn't have microscopes, really. I mean, they didn't really have much insight into cellular processes or anything. And he would say, look, you don't even know how the kidneys purify blood. How are you going to understand spiritual things? Yes. So like when we get, how should you do this, or should you look into that or not? We can't say yes or no, because there's so much, any one of these places could have good, true information, and it could have a bunch of misinformation. It's not that all information is true. It's just there's a ton of true information and a ton of false information out there.
Yes. And maybe the difference today is it used to be like dictated false information. If the false information would be dictated and you have to agree with it, right? Just thinking back in Swedenborg's time, like the church says this, so that's how you have to believe it. And now, there's still lots of false information, but we are able to make our own decisions more. And so it's more responsibility for us to just really measure things for ourselves. Like I see, like I mentioned, and others are mentioning in the chat, like find your certainties. For me, golden rule, 10 Commandments, da, da, da. And then, hold those as your grounding things as you explore. And yeah, just interesting times. I mean, it's overwhelming, but also it's really good that we are
Oh,
called to, yeah.
something else I was going to say. So it sounds like there's a goal. Ebo has a goal there, which is I want to try to discern what's helpful and what's harmful,
Yeah.
or what's true and what's false in this. And I think anytime you have a goal, it's good to pray about that.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and I guess how we were saying before, acknowledge that everything good comes from God. I
Hmm.
think what for me, and I'm not like great at praying, but I sort of feel lately like if I say, for example, I want to figure out what's good and what isn't good on Gaia, let's say, that's a goal. If I say at some point, like out loud or in my head, to the God whom I can't see right in front of me, hey, would you give me a true understanding of this? Would you lead me to it? I think that matters, and I think that
Yep.
then if you do start to discover things, you realize, oh, that comes from God. I just think that's a good practice to get into.
Yes. Yes. And God will guide you, and even sometimes by allowing you to sort of try something out for a while and see for yourself, like, oh, this isn't leading in a good direction. Let me change course. So to trust, to put your intent out there and ask God for help. And then, yeah, just explore and trust the Lord's guidance, because I think there can be too much of a fear, like if I get fooled by a wrong idea, I'm doomed. But that's not how life works. I do see that online too, with people like scared to even consider, um, with us for Swedenborg's books, because what if
Yeah,
it's
right.
evil and bad, and then I'm doomed? But we are called to think things over for ourselves at the same time as trust the Lord's guidance. And you're
Yeah.
not going to go to hell for a wrong idea or getting caught up in. It's your intent to find truth, to find goodness, to find the Lord. You know what
How
I
how,
mean?
s- how strong does your house? Do you feel like you want to explore something or not? I like some people will have like someone who's
Yeah.
immunocompromised at home, and you see them like
Yeah.
wearing a mask or something, or because they're not in a state to go out and do something.
Yes. Right. Right.
But somebody who's if you're a normal, healthy 25-year-old, you might be in a different state than that. So I think that that's similar. If you're feeling really like, I got some energy to spare, I have a good sense of what's right and wrong and who God is, and so I want to check this out, great. But if you're feeling like nervous and overwhelmed already and you don't know
Vulnerable.
what's what,
Yeah.
like just like, okay, like time to take it easy. Okay, we got to move to the next one. We got to keep going through these
Great
questions,
point.
but
Yeah.
great one. Thanks, Ebo. This is Luis who asks, what do you think happens to babies who are frozen as embryos? Are they in heaven that entire time? I wonder when they gain their consciousness. Do we have anything directly from Swedenborg about? Obviously, there weren't freezing embryos
For
in
sure.
Swedenborg's day. That technology wasn't even a dream back then. But
Yeah. Right. Right. So somebody writing in the 1700s is not going to have direct commentary on that. But I think what's interesting is that the little bit that I found from Swedenborg about an embryo is the idea that a person's spirit or individual soul develops. It's not already like fully made, it develops along with the physical vehicle that will hold it. And so I do, so to me, the like a frozen embryo is not already a baby just waiting for this body to grow. There, it's a potential container for a new soul to grow in if the conditions are right. Just like all the seeds that are created out there in nature, the ones that find the right conditions, okay, then they are going to grow, and that life in them is activated into an individual plant. So similarly with a human seed, an embryo. Swedenborg even said It used to be like, even with the physical body, people, before there were microscopes and things, people used to think in the sperm was an already fully formed person that would then just grow. That was a belief back then. And there can be a sort of an equivalent spiritual belief that there's already a fully formed soul in there. Swedenborg offers a different view, that it develops along with the body, like that it's a process. And so that's how I'm seeing. And I could read just a short bit from an unpublished work that he has called Divine Wisdom.
Okay, let's hear it.
Indicates the gradual thing. So just a couple of sentences from it, because it's very long and wordy, but this
No
is
way. Swedenborg?
Swedenborg. I know. That's not why it's not published. About the formation of a person in the womb by the Lord. So Swedenborg writes, there is nothing whatever of the person's will and understanding present during formation. Will and understanding do not commence with a person prior to the opening of the lungs, which takes place after birth. For then the receptacle for love becomes the person's will, and the receptacle for wisdom becomes his understanding. And a little further down, without the cooperation of will and understanding, a human being has no life of his own, just as without the cooperation of love and wisdom, there's no life by which the embryo is formed and vivified. And very last at the bottom, in the embryo before birth, there is life, but the embryo has no consciousness of it. This follows from all that has been said above. So it also follows that the life from which the embryo lives in the womb is not life of its own, but only the Lord's life, who alone is life. So I just get the idea that like there's a spark of life in there. It's God, and it's going to become an individual soul when and if the conditions come for that to start to grow, and then the soul or spirit will grow with that body, will develop gradually. So that's just my thoughts on it.
Fascinating. Yeah. And I think that might lead a little bit into this next question, because we're talking about
Mhm.
the nature of a human being and what it's a very different subject. But
Yeah.
here we go. This is from Ilea, who asks, I have read Other Planets, one of Swedenborg's more controversial books. Swedenborg went around to other planets, spiritually speaking. As I remember, these were planets of communities of other humans, human beings, humanity. The residents of these planets had different outer shapes, nothing like the human beings on the Earth planet. The beings on these various planets remarked that they too have been visited by Christ at some point. The question, since different human beings on different planets have different physiologies and material structures, then what truly is a human being? If not with 2 arms and 2 legs, a head and a torso as we know it on Earth, please define human being.
I love that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
preface it by saying I do think he does talk about people with differing forms. I think everything would qualify as humanoid, meaning does have 2 arms and legs and a head. Proportions may be different and all that. Sometimes there's appearances. He talks about certain spirits that want to appear as an orb, but that's not really how they are. Do you agree with me on that, Karin?
In the book Other Planets, that's the impression I got. Like some of them were very much smaller or larger than us.
Yeah.
Some smaller, different proportions in the body, different ways of. Some sounded almost like moved along like a gorilla, like moved differently.
Yeah.
But I was getting an impression about the 2 arms, 2 legs, and things. I don't know if I'll ever be able to find it again, but I remember coming across one description in Spiritual Experiences that was about some extraterrestrial spirit, and it almost sounded a little bit insectoid. So
Okay.
I hope I'll be able to find that again and say, did I imagine that? Because it doesn't mean, Swedenborg's describing a certain amount of races on a certain amount of other planets. He's certainly not describing every planet in the universe. And so there could be some that are very different. But I think that leads us to, what does it mean to be a human being? Because he calls them all human beings.
Yes.
It's different than like Star Trek, the humans were just earth people and other things were human being has to do with my understanding of what Swedenborg says as a human being is a being that has a will and an understanding, can have rationality and free will, can love and can understand, like in a rational way. So these are the kinds of things that make a human a little different than an animal. And truly human is having love and wisdom from God, not choosing to have a kind of love of cheating and, the other things. Like truly human is love for the human race and the wisdom that goes with that. So it's about having that kind of mind rather than any shape of a body.
Yeah, I think those are great. That's a pretty good comprehensive description. One thing that popped to mind for me when you were saying that is that he does often talk at length about the difference between humans and animals. And one thing he says humans do that animals don't do is humans can conceptualize God and
Yes.
think about God and think about spiritual things. Also, that human beings have the ability to live outside the order of their life.
Yeah.
That animals, a bear is how a bear is supposed to be. Human beings, though, that's why you had to qualify with humans that a human, to be truly human, you're supposed to be a nice human. That's what because as somebody just mentioned in the chat, there God is the actual human. We're a reflection of that. You can be. We have the potential, but there's, I guess, a certain level of freedom that allows you to participate in evil and falsity, which destroy the image of God in you. Whereas pit viper, flamingo will never do that. And so, what if he's encountering these extraterrestrial humans? They must also have those same characteristics. They can conceptualize, and she mentioned, Ilea mentioned that, yeah, that they too acknowledge a human God and see themselves in that God. So yeah, that human, we are not human because of our bodies, but because of our spirits. That's what Swedenborg says. And yeah, but that's just like here, we know that there could be quite a lot of variation. My daughter was talking recently about the tallest guy in history. He's like 8'11", and he looks like he looks. But we're all the same. We're all human beings.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Right. And that I love that you brought up the particular human trait of being able to choose to live out of our order. Like animals don't. They just live according to the order of their life and they just know what to do because of that. And we can choose to go against our order that we were created to be, which is to love God and the neighbor. But we're truly human when we choose to live in that order, acknowledge and love God,
Yeah.
and acknowledge and love that all people are worthy.
And it's not arbitrary, like the human form as we know it, which by the way, I mean, it's a sort of a sliding scale. So if you look at, well, we don't, I guess, consider gorillas to be human. I don't know if they would be human under Swedenborg's definition. I don't know what goes on inside a gorilla's heart and mind. I don't know. But if you just look at animals, like there's so much of the human form is in there, meaning you could look at the digestive system, the cellular makeup. There's a lot of that. So it's a spectrum in there, but the human form that human beings appear in, that's an emanation or reflection of that grows out from those mental capabilities you just mentioned in the spiritual world anyway, that the design of a person, that's not what makes you a person. It's the reception of love and wisdom from God, but the forms that receive that are these forms we're talking about. So it's kind of tied up, but it's not just that there's something about the form that we're in that is the full representation of the divine design, or the index of the divine design. Whereas something like that's alive but not human, like a tree, might be more like a manifestation of a more particular part of the divine design.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay,
Yeah.
We got to keep going. Oh, look at the time. Okay, this is question number 8. Janonye asks, "Hello, everyone at Heaven's Help Desk. Hello.
I
My question is about in-person worship versus virtual worship. What if the churches in one's place does not fit his beliefs and life? What if there was always a clash every time their churches are visited? Would it be wrong to make worship solely virtual, especially when you can find true connections online? This from my experience. Thank you."
it would not be wrong. In this world, in this physical world, we're limited by distance, and we're not always physically around the people that we resonate with in heart and mind. And it's always good, good practice and effort to just get along with the people you're near and find the common ground and everything. But in the spiritual world, we're all going to gather automatically with those that we resonate with, especially in regards to, belief in God, spiritual beliefs and things like that. And so absolutely, it's not a wrong thing now that we have this, I think, God-given ability to connect over the miles, that if that's where you find the church of your heart, like being able to connect with others on the topics of God and spiritual life, and you're not able to find that right around you, I think that's perfectly fine and appropriate. We'd all gather physically, or not physically, but together in this spiritual world. So we're doing that with the
I
spirit.
was going to say that the digital world acts like the spiritual world does. So there you, just as she's mentioning in this comment, like if you go to somewhere where they're worshiping, but you don't agree, or there's something that clashes, spiritually, you're sort of not even there, because your heart's not there, your mind's not there. He even talks about churches in the spiritual world being where people who don't agree with the preacher have to leave. Not that there's not a place for them in another church or something, but it just that ruins the sphere of that, So it's like, why wouldn't you go if you can find people that you harmonize with? So no, I would say certainly there's not anything wrong with that. Okay, next one. Matt Bush asks, "Sometimes I'm concerned that even though I'm working on removing evils from my life, I might not have made enough progress when it's my time to leave this earthly body. Is this also something that I have to work on?" My worrying, yeah.
Yeah, there's no such thing as not having made enough progress. But all we have to do is make a start in this world. We just have to make a start, make our basic choice, and set our goals and desires in a heavenward direction. And then just whatever efforts we make in this world have gotten us started, and we can continue after that. So there's no like measurement of, did I do enough yet, or didn't I? Just keep trying your best each day, and the Lord brings our opportunities to time to time to deal with this thing now.
Yeah, like you wouldn't if you wanted to get rid of all of them, eternity is not long enough. The angels are being perfected to eternity.
Yes.
Yeah, it talks about, no, you just have to have made some progress, and that creates a plane in which you can then improve forever in the afterlife.
That's the big thing, is the desire to improve, the desire to keep learning and to keep improving. That's what's going to carry you on to eternity.
All right. Thanks, Matt. One last one. This is from Luis, who asks, "In what context would I be able to wear glasses in heaven? What would the correspondence have to be?"
That's so cute, because I wonder if this means Louise likes glasses as a fashion accessory. They're very
I think
pretty.
About hats. I don't know if Swedenborg ever talks about glasses, but he talks about hats a lot. The hats have to do with certain things about truths, or intelligence. You get a hat appears on you if you're thinking a certain way, or if you get an answer to a question right, you get given a laurel wreath. So I would imagine that, given that sight has to do with intelligence, that it's something about a certain kind of intelligence you have, or something,
Yeah. I love the question, because as someone who's struggled with eyesight all my life, was very nearsighted as a kid and everything, I love that we won't need glasses to correct our vision anymore in the afterlife. But what a fun thought that if it's more like a symbol of wanting to see more clearly, or just of intelligence or something. Yeah, no doubt that can be part of one's clothing, so to speak, if that's representing, you're looking at something more closely or something like that.
More
So
clearly, yeah. Or it could
yeah.
be that certain kinds of doctrine are like glasses because you use them to see the world more clearly. If
Hmm.
we were just talking about, if you understand that God is everything good, that's like putting those glasses on that lets you see, oh, this God is in all these things that are good. So
Yeah. So
maybe
you
something
want,
like that.
yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for the great questions. Karin, this was so fun. Thanks for sharing your
Yeah.
wisdom
Super
and
fun.
thoughts. Great.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all next time. And we're excited to continue to explore all this material with you.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Great questions.